Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the new year, 2021. Finally. So here's the first video for this year. Something a little sparkly. Let's see. Let's go over the tools. I've got a small pair of parallel mashers, some tweezers. Sometimes I use the Stump Shaper Marver, sometimes I don't. Stainless steel knife and something sharp and pointy. I've got some bright colors laid out on the table. I've got one small stringer of black that I pulled and some other stringers, some green, definitely, and it can be some scrap glass green, a twisty, leftover pieces, whatever you have, and some other colors. It just strikes my fancy. A lot of times I'll go with something in mind, and then either the glass will change my mind or it's not working out for whatever reason. I have myself lots of options. My bright colors are opaque and transparent, and I've got a little bit of Auray double helix glass. We're going to add a little something shiny for our shiny new year. And I will tell you that occasionally I will do, we're going to make a plant stake. That's a little bit different. Normally when I make a bead, I use this 1/16 mandrel. It just works better for my purpose. But today, for the plant stake, I'm going to use a thicker rod. I make plant stakes with this thinner rod, but when I am working something that takes a little more time, I'm afraid this will melt, as it has sometimes. So I need something a little heavier. So that's what I'm using today. And this is my second taping of this today, because my first one, I didn't have my camera quite right, so it filmed all off camera. I hope I pushed the record button this time. We'll just have to go with it and see. Okay, so let me get the torch lit. So this little plant stake is a two-part plant stake. It's a little bird sitting in a nest, but the nest is made, the nest is a flower. So the bird part is easily a beginner bead. Adding the flower on the bottom that sort of looks like a nest. I wouldn't call, it's not really an intermediate. It's kind of you got to know a little bit of how to work the glass if you're going to add the flower to the bottom. So I wouldn't really call this, in my opinion anyway, a total beginner bead. So when we're making this plant stake, I am going to place the bird part right on the very tip of the mandrel. And the bright colors work really well. I tend to shy away from a green. I may use green a little bit. But if I make a predominant part of the flower in green or the bird body in green, it doesn't show up with a really leafy plant. So I tend to shy away from the greens. So I like the bright colors, and I mix the opaque with the transparent. Let's see. This first bead I made was ginormous, and it took me a long time, so I'm gonna make a smaller one so it's not gonna take as long. So I'm just gonna make a fairly good size gather. I'm gonna put it right on the end of the mandrel. I don't want the metal tip shining through. If it does, you can always put a little dot on the end. So that's a good bit smaller than the first one I made. So I'm just gonna let it hang out a little while. Just be a bead, make sure the hole is in the center. And I'm going to use this pretty blue to put some dots on the surface of this bead body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around the base. And then I'm going to space these dots in between the first ones. And likewise with the third row, but they should line up with the first row. And then one right in the middle. Melt those in. Get my parallel mashers ready. Just letting it be a bead again. It's important not to let the bead be off center, or you want it to be balanced. So when I mash with the mashers, I'm going to mash them towards me so that I can see what's being mashed. So if this were the camera eye, you want to be able to see what you're mashing. So always make the mashers point towards you. You just want to be able to see what you're mashing because you don't want to mash it too far. So I'm just heating it evenly and giving it just a slight mash. And I always go back in the other side, so I'll mash it first like this and then turn it over and do the other side. That's just me. Then I will remove the chill marks just gently. And the first thing I'm going to add is a collar. So lately I've been putting a black collar around the base of the head. So it just lies between the bird body and his head. It just gives it a little more detail. So I'm putting it just, if you can look at it this way, it's right in the middle. And this way, it's just to the right of the center of that bead. Because here's the bead body. I want the head to be elevated, so he's looking up. I think it's cuter when he's looking up. And I'm just going to mash this. And I'm mashing so that it's fatter towards his belly. This is going to be his belly here. And it's thinner towards the middle of his back. Then I'm going to put the tail. And the tail is going to be 2 different colors. So his tail will be right here. Right here. And I'm going to use this transparent amber topaz. And I'm going to put one blob right where his tail is going to go. And then I'll layer the other transparent color on top. So it's not a lot. I'm going to heat the surface of the bird and just place that amber down. And then I've got a different color. This is turquoise. Transparent turquoise. I'm going to put, can you see where I laid down that amber? I also like the tail pointing upwards. So I'm just going to give a good swipe with this turquoise from one side of the amber to the other, not touching the body, but just touching the amber. Just letting it blend with that amber. And then I'm going to give it a pinch. Actually, 3 pinches. 1, 2, 3. So you can see how that tail is pointing upwards. Then I'll grab this, my pink. And this little birdie's gonna have a pink head. I'm going to heat that black collar just a little before I place his head on. And while it's melting in, I'm going to let gravity work to my benefit, we hope, and keep that head pointed upwards. I'm just preparing this ivory. I'm going to use it next. So now you can see his head is pointed up, as is his tail. I'll put an eye socket on either side with that sharp pointy. Then I'm going to heat the ivory and put a base. So that it's going to be the start of the flower. And I like using ivory because it flows really well. It doesn't take long to heat. I'm just going to put it at the base of the bird, right where it touches the mandrel. And I'm going to pull the glass from the rod and let it wrap around, sort of making a disc bead. And I can use my knife to scooch it up a little bit. Then I'm going to layer pieces. I'll alternate transparent and opaque colors in there. So I'm going to, on that disc bead, I'm going to build up a larger disc. So the first color I'm adding is this transparent turquoise, and I'll touch it down again and just pull the glass. It's important to go all the way around. If not, you can add a little bit. Please excuse my dog. He's protecting us all. He's so fierce. Just pushing this to a line, making sure it's attached very well. Now I'm going to take some of this green scrap glass, some stringers, and I'm going to attach it underneath the base. It will sort of look like a piece of the stem coming down, but it also protects the mandrel because there's going to be a lot of heat going in this area. Get a different color and add it, still keeping the bird warm. Smoothing it out. Then let's add an opaque color. This is a really bright orange. So I'm holding the bird out in the flame to keep warm. I'm just going to put another layer on the flower part, the flower / nest part. And every time you do this, you want to try and go all the way around. It just makes it easier to build. If you can't go all the way around, you can go back and add some swipes in. So I'm just stretching that orange I'm not gonna make it all the way around. So the rod is in the flame and I'm just stretching it a little more till I reach the point where I started. It's a little wonky, but that's okay. I can even it up with the knife. Bring it back together. A flower is perfectly a flower, whether it's even or not. And there are a couple options. I'm going to come in here and put the wings on the bird now because I don't want to wait until I get this flower built up so much that I don't have enough space to get in there. So I'm going to use this, it's a fat stringer of periwinkle, and I'm just going to do little swipes. I'll show you some options of some other wings, but I'm just going to heat it and put one swipe here and one swipe on the other side with a little point on the end to represent the wing. Let's see, so our last color was orange. I'm going to put a pale transparent blue for the flower next. Moving out in the flame to keep the bird warm. Here we go, one more wrap. So it's getting bigger and bigger. And I'll look at it and see if I need to put an extra little swipe somewhere. There was one place. Okay, this is moving right along. So now I'm going to put the eyes in the bird's face, on his face. Heat the surface just a little bit. I'm not going to put his beak on yet because I'm afraid it's going to melt away. But next, I'm going to pinch this flower. So I'm going to get my pliers out and heat the flower from the top and the bottom. And I should be able to get 2 or 3 pinches worth. Almost done with the pinching. Maybe one more right there. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to add a beak for this birdie. Heat the front. Place the beak. And I like a little pointed beak. Also up. Then I'll take this Triton and go around the edges of the flower. You could also go around the edge of the tail of the bird. You'd have to do it before now. So just a little on the edge, and I'm going to keep the rod in the flame, but not the bird in the flame. So I'm just kind of going up and down, touching down with the double helix glass. Kind of like a sewing machine. Put a little heat on the bird. Then I will put the flame on the bottom of the flower and just heat it till it gets a little softer, and I can shape that flower so it cradles the bird just like a nest would. If I get a little too much heat, I can always grab the pliers and pinch again. Making it ruffled a bit more. Putting heat on the very bottom. The last thing I want to do is get it up as snug as I can to the bird. Oh, I'm impressed. Then I will get some sparkle out of here. Turn down my oxygen. And get that Triton a nice shine on the edge. Nice. And there's the bird. Let me put this in the kiln and I'll show you the others that I finished. If I hadn't turned off the flame, I think I would cradle the bird a little more. But I'll show you the ones. Put this in the kiln. And let's see, these two do not have silver glass. You can see how the bright colors, the red shows up really, really well. And this particular bird, looks like I forgot the wings on this one, but I still think it looks okay. The colors are very bright. This is also made, this is one of the first ones I made, and it's made on the smaller mandrel, and I did not put some glass here. Because I think it was the second one I made. And this happened. Too much heat for too long of a time, and it just fell off. And he's so cute too. This has the wings made from an encased stringer, just spiraled around, so it kind of sort of looks like a rose. I really like the pink though, around the edge of this one. So that's what happens when you put too much flame on a small mandrel. I've got one more here. This one has a nice red head as well, so the red shows up nicely. And the different colors in the flower shine. I really like these little birds, and they look so cute in the flower as a nest, and they look really pretty in a plant. Makes a nice gift for somebody who needs a little cheering up, especially if they're under the weather. But I appreciate your watching. If you have any questions, ask them. You can always get in touch with me through the Florida Glass Dragons on the website or our Facebook page. Thanks everybody, and Happy New Year.